Right now, hidden inside you, there is a scar you will never see. It isn't on your skin. It's written into your DNA and into the DNA of every person who has ever lived. A faint, strange signal that geneticists almost refused to believe when they found it, because it points to a single stretch of time deep in our past, when the entire human story very nearly ended. Look around you today. Walk through any crowded city square, and you'll see a sea of faces. 8 billion of us, spread across every continent. We seem invincible, but here's something that has quietly puzzled scientists for decades. Compared to almost every other animal alive, human beings are unnervingly alike. Take 2 chimpanzees from neighboring troops, and they can carry more genetic difference between them than a human from Iceland and a human from Australia. 8 billion of us, and barely any variety at all. And for years, no one could fully explain why. Then, in 2023, a team of scientists learned to read that pattern backwards, like rewinding a tape. Using a new technique that could reconstruct ancient population sizes from the DNA of people alive today, they traced our family tree back nearly 1 million years, and they watched it almost vanish. Around 900,000 years ago, the number of humans able to have children collapsed, not to thousands, to roughly 1,280. 1,200 people to carry the entire future of humanity, the ancestors of every artist, scientist, builder, and dreamer who would ever live could have fit inside a single high school gymnasium. We were a critically endangered species, rarer than mountain gorillas are today. Now imagine being one of them. Picture a woman. We'll never know her name, but she was as real as you are. She lives on a vast, drying African landscape, under a sun that grows crueler with every generation. The rivers her grandmother knew are gone. The herds are thin. Most children born in her lifetime did not live to grow up. She has walked for days without meeting another band of people, and she has no way of knowing that almost everyone left on Earth like her could be gathered into a space smaller than a single village. This wasn't a hard season. This was the very edge of extinction. And it didn't last a few years. It lasted 117,000 of them. So how did it happen? To understand it, you have to look at what the planet itself was doing. Earth's climate was sliding into a new and brutal rhythm. Ice ages growing longer and deeper. In Africa, that meant relentless drought. Lakes that had fed life for millennia cracked into dust. The green corridors that let people roam and find food broke apart into scattered islands of survival. The world was trying to kill them, and it very nearly succeeded. But here's where tragedy turns into something stranger. That fragile bottleneck, that knife's edge, may be the very reason you exist in the form you do. When a population shrinks that small, rare genetic changes that would normally vanish in a huge crowd can suddenly take hold and spread through everyone. And that same narrow window lines up with one of the strangest events in all of human biology, the moment 2 separate chromosomes fused into one. It's why you carry 46 chromosomes, while our chimpanzee cousins carry 48. In that tiny, struggling population, the change may have spread, helping set apart the lineage that would one day lead to us. In other words, we may not have survived in spite of nearly dying. We may have become human because of it. The very thing that almost erased us might be the thing that made us. But if we came that close once, was it the only time? For years, scientists believed our most famous brush with oblivion came much later, and from a single catastrophic day. Around 74,000 years ago, on the island of Sumatra, a volcano named Toba erupted, the largest blast this planet had seen in 2 million years. Picture the sky going dark at midday, and a strange gray snow falling for days. It isn't snow. It's ash. Toba threw thousands of cubic kilometers of rock into the sky, and some argued it plunged the world into a years-long volcanic winter that nearly finished us off. It was a gripping idea. A single mountain, almost ending the human race. But when researchers went searching for the proof, they couldn't quite find it. Sediment cores from an African lake showed no great die-off. And in India, directly beneath Toba's ash, archaeologists found stone tools, and above the ash, more tools, made in the very same way. People had lived there before the eruption. People were still living there after. They hadn't vanished, they had endured. And how a battered, starving species endures is its own quiet miracle. Pushed to the southern edge of Africa, where freezing waves crash against towering cliffs, a band of survivors looked down into the tidal pools and saw mussels and sea snails. For an ape that had always hunted on land, wading into the lethal surf was a leap of faith. But the ocean didn't care about a dying world. The tides kept turning, and the shellfish were rich in exactly the nutrients a hungry primate brain needed. There was only one catch. The richest harvest came at the lowest tides, and to predict a low tide, you have to look up. You have to realize the glowing moon is tied to the water at your feet, track its phases, and plan weeks ahead. For the first time, humans weren't just reacting to the world, they were predicting it, the faintest spark of what we'd one day call science. In a cave above that same coast, archaeologists found the rest of the story. Layers of discarded shells, lumps of red ochre, engraved with careful geometric patterns, and tiny shells pierced to be worn on a string. Think about that. When you are starving and freezing, you do not waste calories carving art or making jewelry, unless something inside your mind has profoundly changed. These survivors had become intensely social. They traded, they planned, they signaled who they were and forged alliances. They didn't just survive the apocalypse made them human. And that is the deepest reason we are here. We did not endure because we were the strongest creatures in the landscape. We weren't. We endured because we were adaptable and because we learned to survive together. A lone human is weak. A small, isolated band is fragile. But a network of groups, sharing knowledge, mates, and tools, is far harder to erase. We survived not by becoming invincible, but by becoming linked, not by perfection, by persistence. Someone always carried the fire one more step into the dark. So, the next time you feel small, just one face lost among billions, remember the scar you can't see. Remember the chimps in the forest and how strangely alike we all are. It isn't a weakness, it's an inheritance, the permanent mark of a tiny, desperate family that refused to die in the dark. Every language ever spoken, every city ever built, every time we have reached for the stars, all of it was done by the children of the few who looked at the end of the world and found a way to live. We came within a whisper of never existing at all, and yet, here you are, living proof that the thread held.